Hey guys, it's Minty here, and today I'm going to talk about... What's that noise? Jumanji! Ah yes, Jumanji, the 1995 family adventure movie about a mysterious board game called Jumanji, which once players start playing the game, absolute mayhem is unleashed. The classic movie, which starred the late and great Robin Williams, tells the story of Alan Parrish, a young boy from 1969 who finds the troublesome board game, and one night while playing the game with his friend Sarah, he literally gets sucked into the board game, into the mysterious world of Jumanji. Jump to 1995 and siblings Judy and Peter find Jumanji, and after a few rolls of the dice, they unleash all sorts of mayhem into the real world. So in an attempt to undo the damage that has been done, they are determined to finish the game, where they manage to bring back a now middle-aged Alan Parrish in this ultimate board game adventure, which features monkeys, a stampede, floods, and giant mosquitoes. So today, to distract me from playing this dangerous board game, we are going to look into 10 things that you may not know about Jumanji. So, let's check it out before that hunter guy, which is played by that guy from Titanic, comes by and tries to shoot us all. Check it out. Number 10, based on a children's book. Yes, believe it or not, but before 1995, Jumanji already existed as a children's picture book, which was published in 1981, and written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg, who, by the way, also wrote The Polar Express. There are some differences between book and movie. For example, in the book, Peter and Judy aren't children who are grieving over their recently deceased parents, but rather their parents go out one evening, and in boredom, Peter and Judy stroll into the local park where they find the board game Jumanji, which has the strict instructions, do not begin unless you intend to finish. Oh yeah, that, and there is no Alan Parrish in the original book. He was an invention entirely made for the movie. And the story ends with Peter and Judy returning Jumanji to the park, only to discover that the two boys who live next door also discover the board game and take it home with them. And incidentally, in 2011, Robin Williams recorded the audio storybook for Jumanji. Number 9, meaning behind the name. We all know the name Jumanji, or at least are aware of it. No doubt thanks to the 1995 movie, or even to modern viewers, the recent 2017 sequel. But what does the word Jumanji actually mean? And does it have any significance? Well, according to both Robin Williams and Jumanji's creator Chris Van Allsburg, Jumanji is a Zulu word meaning many effects, in the sense that each time the dice is rolled, there is bound to be effects taking place. But this didn't stop Robin Williams from having fun and messing with people's heads. In true Williams fashion, when people would ask him what the word Jumanji actually means, he would give them all sorts of answers, like Jumanji being an island in the Caribbean. Yeah, classic Robin Williams. Number 8. Robin Williams was not the first choice for Alan Parrish. Just try to imagine anyone else other than Robin Williams in the role of Alan Parrish in Jumanji. I dare you. It's just damn near impossible, as he was so iconic and lovable in the part. And having him just made the movie that bit more special. However, when the movie was in its early stages of production, the actor who was on top of the list to play Alan was indeed Tom Hanks, which I got to admit, I can kind of see happening. And Hanks, after all, is a good actor. And I think that both Hanks and Williams are both good at portraying youthful innocence despite their older ages. For example, just look at Forrest Gump. But at the end of the day, I'm glad it was Williams who was eventually cast. Man, the 90s was a weird time for movie roles being offered to Tom Hanks. Don't forget that just a few years earlier, he was also offered the role of Edward Scissorhands. Sheesh. Number 7, there was an animated series. Yeah, that's right, there was an actual animated series of Jumanji, which ran from 1996 to 1999. Does anyone actually remember this show? Like, as in anyone at all? Produced by Sony, the show actually deviates greatly from the movie. For example, when Judy and Peter start playing Jumanji, they are sucked into the jungle world of the board game, giving viewers a chance to see what the hostile world of Jumanji looks like. It's here that the kids meet Alan Parrish, who looks just like how he looks in the movie when we see him as an adult for the first time, what with his jungle beard. Alan and the kids team up to try and get out of the nightmare world of Jumanji, and along the way they discover that over the ages there have been many players who have been captured into the terrifying world of Jumanji. From what I remember, the animated series was actually pretty dark and took itself quite seriously. I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me. I just never got into it, but that could be because it came out at a time when I outgrew cartoons. So maybe for me it was just poor timing. But seriously, no one ever talks about the animated series. It has pretty much become obsolete. So let me get this right. The Jumanji animated series offered a look into the jungle world of Jumanji, while we also learn that other players have also been imprisoned within the game. So basically, this is Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle 20 years earlier. Number 6. The board game of the board game. Well, considering Jumanji came out in the mid-90s, the time when there was a huge video game boom, you can just imagine all the awesome video games to come out of this movie. I mean, after all, the movie itself is about a game, which features all kinds of animals and obstacles and crazy jungle guys with guns. So with that premise alone, there was so much potential for a Jumanji video game. Well, here's the video game tie-ins that came out with the movie. Yep, that's right. Nothing. I seriously can't believe that Jumanji never got a video game tie-in. I mean, you would think that it would be the perfect movie to convert into a video game. However, it wasn't all bad news for young fans who needed to get their Jumanji fix, as Milton Bradley actually released a board game so players at home can enter the zany world of Jumanji and own their very own Jumanji board game. Jumanji did end up getting a video game on the PlayStation 2, but it wasn't released until 2007, a whole 12 years after the release of the movie. Speaking of which, I really want to play Jumanji, but if only I had someone to play it with. Right, well, I wanted someone to play Jumanji with, and here I am with the Minty Comedic Arts producer, Jack, and we're going to be playing some Jumanji.
What's with all those drum noises?
It's Jumanji! Alright, Jack, you go first, mate.
I don't want to go first.
No, come on, you go first. Come on, man.
You go first.
You go first!
No, you go first.
You go first.
Let's settle it.
Alright, 1, 2, 3. Ha! You're going first! Alright, go, Jack, roll the dice. 4! Alright, here you go, Jack, take your card.
In the jungle you must wait till the dice read 5 or 8.
Jack! Oh, great, Jack's gone. If anyone sees Jack, can they please let me know? Number 5. Monopoly helped create Jumanji.
This is how we do it.
Author Chris Van Allsburg said that he wrote Jumanji out of his frustration with other board games like Monopoly, in that his excitement for playing the game would build, only at the end to discover that all he got out of the experience was fake money. He envisioned how exciting it would be if there was a board game that once you rolled the dice and landed on each square, it said that something exciting is going to happen, in which something exciting does indeed happen. In other words, a board game that affects the real physical world, which I've got to admit is much more exciting than Monopoly's fake money. So it was just out of the desire for a more exciting board game which inspired Van Allsburg to write Jumanji. Number 4. Robin Williams saw something both dark and deep in Jumanji. Williams stated that he finds that there is something darker and frightening within the story of Jumanji, other than a board game which unleashes a bunch of wild jungle animals, of course. He felt that the story was about children's fear of abandonment in regards to how his character is sucked into the game from a very young age, only to return 26 years later. And also in regards to how Judy and Peter are struggling with the loss of their parents. He felt that it was a deep look into how children are afraid to be abandoned and no longer have their parents around to look after them, and the fears and insecurities that it brings with it. He said that given the fact that he was an only child, with parents who worked very hard and couldn't always be there for him, he could relate to the Alan Parrish character.
That's a really interesting take on the story. So what do you guys think? Could Jumanji be about children and their struggle with abandonment issues?
Number 3. The movie director's successful career. Joe Johnston. Now there's someone whose name hasn't been mentioned yet in this episode. He was the director of the original Jumanji and had the mammoth task of bringing this crazy, ambitious story onto the big screen. And he does so with enthusiasm and gusto. In fact, he is a very talented director who over the years has directed many fun movies with plenty of servings of adventure, including Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, October Sky, Jurassic Park 3, and Captain America, The First Avenger. Yeah, he's gone from board game to Marvel. So basically, if there is a fun movie that needs to be made, it seems that Joe Johnston is your go-to guy for bringing wacky adventures of the imagination onto the screen. Number 2. The long, complicated history of the sequel. Ever since the ending of Jumanji back in 1995, where we see the dreaded board game washed up on a beach, us 90s kids have been anticipating the sequel. The continuation of the story, which was clearly set up by the end of the movie. I remember me and my friends would often talk about the end scene and what we thought could happen in Jumanji 2. But as the years went by, there was no sequel. So eventually everyone forgot about it, despite the fact it was totally set up for a part 2. Then finally in 2012, Sony announced that there would be a Jumanji remake. Yep, a flat-out remake, to which many people voiced their displeasure of the news of a remake, one of whom being Bradley Pierce, who played Peter in the original movie, calling it unnecessary and insulting. Then in 2015, it was announced that the remake would be pushed back to a later release date, because it was felt otherwise it'll be released too close to Robin Williams' death. And the following 2 years, rewrites took place, in which the remake became a sequel. And thus finally in 2017, we finally got the long-awaited follow-up to Jumanji, in the form of Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, which although I don't think is as good as the original, it still frequently made me chuckle and was enjoyable.
I know that a lot of people find it to be an insult to the original, but to them I have to say, come on, just watch the end of the very first Jumanji. It's totally set up for a follow-up.
Number 1, an Avenger nearly starred in the movie. Indeed, the role of Judy was played by a young pre-teen Kirsten Dunst, which helped propel her into the mainstream movie scene, and would lead her to take on roles in movies like Spider-Man and Wimbledon. However, another young actress who has also gone on to become a huge celebrity also auditioned for the role of Judy, in the form of a very young Scarlett Johansson. Her audition tape has surfaced online, and she seems a lot younger than Dunst at the time, and yeah, didn't quite have the sincerity that Dunst had. So instead of the Black Widow, the crew went with Mary Jane Watson instead, and the rest was history.
Okay guys, that was my look into Jumanji, the world's most troublemaking board game. I hope you all enjoyed it and maybe learned something new. If there is one thing that this movie has taught us, that is if you ever find a random board game somewhere, don't play with it. Just leave it alone. Don't even touch it. You don't know just how much damage it could cause. Anyway, I'm Minty and Jumanji.